Have you ever felt like you're ticking all the right boxes in your career? You're going to the workshops, you're getting the certifications, but deep down, something just feels missing. Well, you're definitely not alone. That's what we're diving into today, the two crucial sides of growth and why one of them often gets left behind. So it really boils down to this question. Is growth all about the things you do, or is it about the person you are? The thing is, the most successful and fulfilled professionals out there, they understand it's not a choice. You need both. Let's break that down. Think of it like a two-lane highway heading towards your best career. In one lane, you've got professional development. That's all the external stuff, the skills, the licenses, the standards you have to meet for your role. Then, in the other lane, you have personal development. This is the internal journey, figuring yourself out. So let's start on that first, more familiar path, professional development. All right, first up is developing your professional role. This is probably the territory most of us know pretty well. It's that whole world of skills, qualifications, and all the formal structures that shape our day-to-day jobs. So at the very heart of all this is something called CPD, or Continuing Professional Development. The best way to think about it is like a professional software update. It's just a structured way to make sure your skills and your knowledge are always running on the absolute latest version. But here's the key thing about CPD. It's not just about ticking boxes for compliance. No way. The most effective CPD is actually self-directed. It's about you taking ownership of your own growth, actively looking for ways to get better. And why is that so important? Well, because in a field that's changing so fast, if you're standing still, you're actually falling behind. Of course, this whole journey doesn't just start out of nowhere. It really begins with what's called IPD, or Initial Professional Development. That's that critical bridge you cross from being a student to being a full-on practitioner. But once you've crossed that bridge, CPD becomes your lifelong partner on the road to getting better and better. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, you're probably doing a lot of this stuff already. Every conference you go to, every workshop you sign up for, every single time you discuss a case with your colleagues, they're all pieces of this big professional development puzzle. And this quote really hits the nail on the head. The best, most impactful CPD isn't about meeting some requirement. It's about expressing who you are as a professional. And that, right there, brings us to the other side of the coin, personal development. Okay, so we've talked about the what. Now let's shift gears and look inward. Let's talk about understanding your personal self and some of the powerful theories that explain the psychological forces that shape who you really are. See, personal development is what I like to call the inner game of growth. It's all about self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and that deep-down drive to become the best possible version of yourself. And to help us get a handle on it, let's look at a few powerful psychological theories that can be our guide. I'm sure you've heard of this one, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's this super useful pyramid that explains what really drives us as human beings. We all start at the bottom with the basics, survival, safety, feeling like we belong. But once those fundamental needs are met, we start to strive for something more, something called self-actualization. And that's all about reaching our absolute full potential. And here's why this matters in the real world. Think about it. If someone on your team is constantly worried about their job security, they're stuck down there at the safety level of the pyramid. It is almost impossible for them to be creative or innovative or truly purpose-driven when their basic needs feel threatened. Okay, now for something a little different. Let's talk about Freud. He had this idea that our minds are in a constant negotiation between three competing forces. So first up, you've got the id. The id is basically the toddler in your brain that wants what it wants right now. And on the complete other side, you've got this superego. This is like the little angel on your shoulder. It's that internal critic that's always reminding you of the rules, of all the shoulds and shouldn'ts that society has taught you. And then, stuck right in the middle, you have the ego. The ego is the mediator, the diplomat. It's the part of you that's constantly trying to find a realistic balance between the impulsive demands of the id and the high-minded ideals of the superego. So let's put this all together with a perfect example. Picture this. You're totally exhausted at the end of a long day, and a patient is being really difficult. Your id, it feels that flash of irritation. It wants to snap back. But your superego, your professional ethics, and your ego, your rational mind, they work together to produce a calm, professional, therapeutic response. Understanding this internal tug of war is just crucial for self-regulation. And finally, let's just briefly touch on Erikson's stages of development. He saw our lives as a series of psychosocial challenges, or crises, and how we navigate these challenges is what shapes who we become as adults. From finding our identity to building relationships to making a meaningful contribution, each stage plays a huge role in our professional journey.
All right, so we've looked at the external demands of the role, and we've dived into the internal landscape of the self. So, what happens when you finally bring those two together?
And really, this is the core idea, the big takeaway. True excellence is when you integrate the two. You can't separate the professional from the person. The most effective, the most fulfilled professionals are the ones who bring their whole, authentic selves to their work. It's not about being perfect, it's about being whole.
And why is this integration so incredibly important? Well, because when you bring your personal and professional selves together, you unlock a whole new level of performance. Your emotional intelligence skyrockets. You get way more resilient against burnout. Your communication skills improve. You basically transform from just being a competent practitioner into a true leader.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to reflect on. When you look at your own journey, right here, right now, which side of that coin needs a little more of your attention? Is it the external stuff, the skills of your role, or is it the internal work on yourself? The answer to that question could be the key to unlocking your next big phase of growth.